we go. All right, welcome
Hey,
everybody. Let's get this thing rolling. As usual, we run through a little introduction here to let folks know what these calls are all about, and people watching these videos later, they may not know what we are doing here. And we also give folks some time to join in. About privacy, we are recording these meetings, and since this is a very laid-back conversation, we may end up sharing things on screen. So if you do share anything, just make sure that you're not sharing anything that's client-specific, your employer-specific, things that could get you in trouble for. So just make sure. The Virtual Brown Bag, what this is a place where we just get together weekly, every Thursday, the same time, and we share tips and tricks, experiences that, things that we've learned the hard way, and we may want to, have other people benefit from our learnings. We may share frustrations or difficulties of something that we're going through and we cannot figure out how to address it, or maybe we found a way to address it, but we don't feel like it's the best way to go about it. Well, if we share, maybe somebody else has gone through the same thing and can help us out. So it's not supposed to be a one-way conversation, your typical like user group or conference presentation. It's just really meant to be a conversation between people on the call. Logistics, again, we do this every Thursday, Central Time, 12 to 1. We're doing it on Skype at the moment, which it's a free offering from Skype to allow us to do this kind of meeting. It has a cap up to 50 participants, which should be good for the time being. As we grow, then we would need to look into other alternatives, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. And it's for anybody who would like to join in and share and learn, and doing both is even better. Things that you can see on the screen that we've shared this far, we've been all over the map, and we used to do the virtual brown bag some years ago. That's why you see maybe some technologies here that are not even around, but just to give you an idea that we've been all over the place, and that's really the idea, is to raise awareness to things that we are learning, we are working with, we are discussing, and it may be helpful to other people. You never know. There's a virtualbrownbag.com website where you can find the link to the weekly meetings. You can find us on Twitter. You can find a Slack channel where we can continue the conversations that we've had here or propose topics for upcoming events. We also, when the video is up online, we update this page so that people can find the discussions, the videos, and all that kind of fun stuff. And without further ado, let's roll. I do have some things to go over today, just to essentially to spark some conversations, hopefully. So what I'm going to be doing is just to go through some of my recent blog posts. I've been blogging quite frequently, and it gives folks an idea that, I used to only post about, or mostly post about technical things, and I've been posting really about a whole, different set of things, because somehow all of these things do have an impact on how I'm working, the code that I'm writing, the solutions that I'm proposing. So that's why I started like posting a lot about it. So I'll just bring it up. I'm going to do a quick run through my recent blog posts, and then you guys just, chime in and say, oh, let's talk a little more about that. So managing interruptions is a big thing, right? Most people working from home these days, working from home demands a different type of managing for interruptions, because we are exposed to a lot of like different types of interruptions than we do at the office. So I continue using the Pomodoro Technique. I've been following or using the technique for way over 10 years now. I still use it back home to track my internal and external interruptions. I educate my environment. So if I'm working on something that's like, I'm in the zone, I would rather not be interrupted right now. Back here at home, I have a little token, right? I have my little Batman sign like right outside here that I just turn it on. So, folks in the house know that I'm in a meeting. I should not be interrupted during this time. It does help, right? Controlling those interruptions. So there are some tips there. If I do get interrupted, I still use Time Snapper, which I've been using again also over a decade now. So if I do get interrupted for a valid reason or whatever, and I need to get back where I was before the interruption, Time Snapper is just taking screenshots of my screen every 5 seconds or so. So when I come back, I can replay those, like the 5 minutes prior to being interrupted, it plays really quick, and I'm like, okay, I see where I was going with that.
Does Time Snapper work on Mac now? Because I remember for
They
a while it was Windows
Yeah,
only.
they do have a version which I have not put on my Mac yet because now for like development work, I'm using mostly the PC. So I'm
Uh,
just using the free version they have for that. For the Mac, they do have an app that costs, I think, $19 or something like that, which is on my list because it's like, yeah, I will get it because depending on what I'm doing on the Mac, I do want to have that.
yeah, that's Leon Dambert's program, right? The secret geek guy.
I do not know.
I
I've
think
I've used TimeSnapper all this time. I don't know who actually makes it.
he
It's the timesnapper.com website guy.
yeah, he's cool. He had some
Excellent.
fun apps. So I
Yeah.
have a question to you about interruptions. You say you like make it clear when people shouldn't interrupt you. Like you're pretty high up at improving right now, right? Like, do you find that that's actually something you can do? Because I feel like for the last few years I have to take interruptions because there's a decent chance that the thing that I'm being interrupted for is more important than the thing I'm working on.
Yes.
Has that
So
been your experience?
yes. So it really depends. It varies what I'm doing by situation because usually I work at the client site or with whatever clients I'm currently working with. So my approach will vary based on my environment, right? Like my previous client, we used to have, it was a pretty much an open floor space, and so it was kind of hard not to be interrupted, right? But I did let people know, look, I usually like work with my little earbuds because I'm listening to some music because that's how I like working. So if I'm with these, it's fine interrupting me. If I'm like starting a Pomodoro and I'm like heads down into something, then I'm gonna wear these.
Mm-hmm.
That's the token. If I'm wearing these, please do not interrupt me unless the building is on fire. And I let people know, look, I explain to them about Pomodoros, how I'm like, right now into this 25-minute block of uninterrupted time. If the building's on fire, please pull me out of it. If you have a question for something that it's a blocker for you, you know, try to think about it a couple more minutes. And if you cannot figure out, just drop a sticky on my desk. Come see me, and I'll come see you when I'm done with my 25-minute slot. And that usually works pretty well, right? Because many times what I've learned is that if that person just takes that one extra moment, oh, Claudio is busy, let me see if I can figure it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Many times they actually can, right? And when and of course you hold yourself accountable. And if you say, yes, I will come see you, you have to go see that person, right? Because that's what you told them you're going to do. It has happened so many times that I go see the person's like, oh, I figured it out, don't worry, right? So you work with that. So you always let the person know, look, if the thing, if I know somebody on the team is working on a user story that is like, if that person hits a roadblock, that's a whole roadblock for the entire team. I say, by all means, if I have my do not interrupt token, yes, go ahead and interrupt me because that is the top priority for the team today, right? So it's again, just working with folks, work with whatever your environment calls for, that day, that week, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. The other part of it that I have trouble with is sometimes well, like because when you're all remote, like pretty much the only thing you have to token is like your Slack status,
Right.
and people are just trained to ignore those because nobody keeps those updated. So it really, like, unless you're setting up some sort of auto reply bot, like there, it's kind of weird. There's almost no way to do it, even though there is very explicitly a way to do it, but no one pays attention to it.
Well, you see, those things, like I have all those notifications disabled,
Ah,
right? And I let people know, look, all my notifications are disabled. If you have a real urgency, you have my phone number, you call me. Oh, and yeah, by the way, my phone is also set to do not disturb. So maybe my phone was not is not gonna ring, but drop me a message, right? And then as I have my Pomodoro breaks, or I have times of the day, like in the morning, in the afternoon, when it's like, okay, this is the time where I catch up with everything, I'll go check those messages, right? And then of course, if I do know that during a day there's something that, there is a very good chance people are gonna need me, then I just prepare myself for that. Then I bring the notifications back on, and I make myself available. So those are like some things, some tricks that I've been using that work for me. I know that they don't work for other people because of the way that they work and the kind of interactions that they have with their teams. People have to see whatever works for them.
Oh.
Right. And then the other point that I make on this post here that came from learning and practicing Pomodoros is to identify internal and external interruptions, right? So an internal interruption is I click on a link because I'm doing a research for the thing that I'm working on. I click on a link, and then that link shows me something else, or I see like a little notification that there is a message in Facebook, and then I go, oh, let me see what that's all about, and then that's an internal interruption. I've made that decision to go that route. So when that happens, I write that down, and I write down, okay, that was an internal interruption, and this is what triggered it. Oh, it was a Facebook thing. Oh, next time I start a Pomodoro, I will make sure that I have no Facebook, I have no Twitter, I have nothing that could generate that kind of interruption. An external interruption is somebody walks up to my desk and say, Claudio, you need to do this, whatever, whatever, without even thinking or asking, do you have a minute? Right? That is an external interruption. So I write that down as what happened, and then I think, okay, how can I prevent that from happening? So, for example, the little Batman, sign up there, lit up right now, that's a token. I let my environment know that's it. Problem addressed. So that's my recommendation to people. Identify what are your internal and external interruptions, and think of ways that you can mitigate those. They will still happen, right? One time or another, they will happen. But if you keep track of them and you find, you think of ways to address them, you may be better off than just, oh, that's just how it is. No, it's not how it is. You can make a change there if you
I
choose to
like
do
that
so.
idea a lot. I like the categorizing interruptions and tracking them. Yeah, I don't do that. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, that is great, man. That is, I actually got, there used to be a PDF on the Pomodoro Technique website. It's not there anymore. I cannot find it, but I have a copy local. I can send it to you guys. But that's where I got this thing where the guy who created the technique says, as you plan out your day, plan out the tasks that you need to accomplish, try to estimate those, like, okay, for this task, 1 Pomodoro, for these tasks, 3 Pomodoros, whatever. And as you're working on them, if you do get interrupted, indicate, make a little tick, and, internal, external. At the end of the day, go through those and figure out, what can I do about it? What will I do about it? And some of
Saying is you
the
actually read to the end of the Pomodoro book. Whereas like me, I was like, hey, I got it. I'm just
yeah,
gonna.
no, I did go through the whole thing, man. And it made a huge difference because when you just make like the long story short, it's like, okay, you get a kitchen timer, 25 minutes, go, right? That's how you get started. But there's more to it. Like for me, even like estimating tasks in order to implement a user story, I, depending on what it is and the environment and everything, I size those in terms of Pomodoros. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to create this script, this migration script. It will take me 2 Pomodoros. This other thing here, it will take me like 3 Pomodoros to write my specs for the test that I'm working on,
Do you
whatever.
want to take a step back and describe what Pomodoros are? I don't know if everyone.
That's probably a good idea. Yes. So thanks for bringing that up. So let's click on this. I think I'm linked to the Pomodoro Technique website. So this is something, if I remember the story right, some Italian guy, yeah, Francesco, right? Many years ago, he was having some sort of trouble, doing his school assignments, college assignments, whatever it was, and he was having problems focusing on the task at hand. So he came up with this idea of picking up a kitchen timer, right? The Pomodoro. Pomodoro is just Italian for tomato, where you can set it to 25 minutes and you pick the task and you only work on that task uninterrupted for 25 minutes. Now, uninterrupted means uninterrupted. If you see a little notification from social media, you are not going to go check it out. If you see your phone ringing and you pick up the phone, that's an interruption, right? As opposed to, oh, this person is calling me. Yeah, I'll silence that and call that person later. You work on that uninterrupted for 25 minutes, highly focused on that task. And then you stop for 5. You go stretch your legs, you go grab some water, take a deep breath, and then you come back for another 25 minutes. Now, it's important in that break not to engage your mind with other things that are going to completely pull you away from the thing that you were working on before. Otherwise, this context switch is going to mess you up on the way back. So like, for example, working from home, what I've been doing in that 5-minute break, maybe I'm just picking up my acoustic guitar, playing a little tune. So something that keeps me in the moment, and then I go back to my task, right? So like his recommendation is do 4 Pomodoros. So it's 4 25-minute little sprints with 5-minute breaks in between. So that amounts to what, 2 hours? And then you take a slightly longer break, maybe 20, 25 minutes, and then you go back. Now, from the stuff that he has on his training material, that's the part that I was describing, is identifying what parts of the day you would be able to afford the uninterrupted time. Because you may not be able to say, oh, I work for 8 hours. Can I do Pomodoros throughout those 8 hours? Of course not, right? We have meetings. We have to be interrupted to help out other people on the team and so on and so forth. So what I do is I look at my agenda for the day, and then I identify, oh, I have a 2-hour window here, I have a 1-hour window here, I have a 3-hour window here. So in those, I say, well, I can fit 2 Pomodoros here, 4 here, 6 here. Great. Let me see what tasks I have to accomplish that day to see what would fit well within 2 Pomodoros, 4 Pomodoros, right? And take it from there. And then I take the extra step. For example, if I'm working on a user story and I say, well, I'm going to spend 2 Pomodoros writing my tests, only the specs, right? The given when thens for this user story. I end up spending 3 Pomodoros. I write that down. I will write down, hey, I thought it was going to take me 2 Pomodoros. Why did it take 3? And then I write down, well, it's because I've uncovered some edge cases, some different scenarios that we didn't think about it. And I did have to ask the PO for clarification. So I write those down. Because that way, over time, I will improve my estimation capabilities based on that. It's like, well, last time I remember, it took me a little longer because of X. And also the counter to it is, I thought it was going to take me 4 Pomodoros. It took me 2. Why? Well, it was because, I thought I was going to have to write a function to accomplish this thing. And then next thing I know, there is something already that I could reuse. I take note of that because like George mentioned, the act of taking notes, it helps you remember things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's great.
Cool. So yeah, that's one thing I've been talking to people about. Nowhere to look is another thing, man. Like social media right now is disgusting, right? We are bombarded with so much bad news that it can really bring you down. So I had this one post here where I talk, some opinions about that. And in summary, I just have a couple of links to things like, you know what? If you are tired like I am, exhausted from bad news, here are some links where you can actually see good news, right? Something to actually cheer you up. It's like, yes, there's a lot of bad stuff happening out there, but there's also good. There's a lot of bad people doing bad stuff out there, but there's also good people doing good stuff. So maybe that can inspire you. I'm telling you, I need that dose. Like I need to start my mornings, start my days with that, with good stuff. Otherwise, it's like I'm losing my day if I start with bad news in the morning, right? And I don't want to feel like that. That's like what the heck. George, how are you doing, man, with everything that's going on?
I mean, I I don't know. I'm I already spend like all my time thinking like I'm like very internally negative, like as far as like I in general picture like every negative situation, like basically once a day. I'm like, oh, a meteor could wipe out everything suddenly. um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, oh yeah, I think about that a lot, and then
Really?
so like in purport, and I read a lot of history, so like proportionally speaking, like it gives a lot of perspective and kind of all flows off.
Okay.
So, but yeah, good stuff. No,
Sure.
I've stopped like using Twitter much, except for like to occasionally say stuff. Um, it could be a real dumpster fire, but it's for me. It's more like, well, it's just too easy to get lost in.
It is.
I do have that happen with Slack to me. Like I'm in uh, 17 different Slacks or something like that.
Oh,
Uh,
geez, God. How do you do that, man? Or
yeah,
why do you do
yeah. I
that?
don't keep up with all of them, but all of them have like kind of interesting things going on at times. Uh,
Okay.
and like yeah, because like that's the main way that all that's keeping up. All right,
Okay.
like it's strange. And like I don't like the way the Slack application works in their interface, but at the same time, that's where like all of my online interactions are. Like to
Okay.
the point where like I don't even run anything else because just like there's Discord servers or IRC servers I would like to join, but just the hassle of running an additional app for that is just
Yeah,
too much.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So yeah, following up with that theme, I've been over the last couple of years trying to, find opportunity in adversity. Again, things go bad, things go wrong. We have challenges, we have, stuff happening, and it used to be for me that's like all adversity, pff, it throws me like right down. Very hard to get back up. I started to just, paying more attention to it, be more mindful, and you hit a wall, maybe just take a step back and start, thinking instead of going through the wall, maybe if you take a step back, you can see that you can go around the wall, right? But you're not gonna see that if you're just like, right, and if your head's down into whatever it is that you're doing. So, looking for those, and then I guess next, I ask myself, what can I do about it? And I try not to settle on the first answer because what can I do about it? The answer could be, oh, just give up, just let it go. Well, maybe that's not the best option. It could be an option, right? But what else can I do? And I try to come up with a list. What else can I do given this adversity, this challenge? And then last but not least, what will I do? Right? Because now I have the options. I have the option to just stay complaining, remain complaining about stuff. That's an option. But that kind of sucks. So I try to decide, yep,
So you've been doing improv now for started doing improv and like been doing it for a little while.
right.
Have you seen how that ties into this attitude yet? Like,
The whole
because
thing.
yeah, that's something I definitely found. So I took improv. I did improv for years, and
Right.
because that's something where it happens a lot of times. Where you're on stage, like in front of people. You have something in your mind. Your teammates do not know what you're thinking, and from your point of view, what just happened was completely wrong. Huge
Yep.
wrench thrown into exactly what you were planning, and then you have to like right away in the moment turn around and start looking for other entertaining angles on it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there
I very much find that ties into it in a lot.
absolutely. Yeah, I actually do have another post from a couple weeks ago about slowing things down. so that you can get a better angle. And that works for everything, as I come to realize. So in improv, I saw on my post, I actually linked to this one. It's a famous improv guy, and I totally forgot his name. But he talks about like one of his techniques in improv is, you're proposed this situation, and what you should really do is take one step back and look around. So like if somebody says, well, I'm using my laptop, well, you can think of the laptop, or you can take a step down and think, what else is here? Well, maybe I have a desk. Maybe I have like right now a kneeling chair, or I have a standing desk, or I have a Batman sign which decorates my. So there's way more that I can use at my disposal as opposed to just that one thing that's right on my face.
Right. And at that point, you can start playing around with it, right? Someone says, can't you see I'm on the laptop? Yeah, you have to say, it was like, yes, but do you also have to be sitting on the dog while you do it? Like,
right. Yeah. And I like the way he put this because one of my ideas, wrong ideas when I started improv, I thought, well, I'm going to learn to think faster. And that's not the idea. If you actually slow down, take a step back, you get way more time to process everything that's going on. It's not that you're thinking fast. It's just that, and another example that I give is like, I ride a motorcycle at the racetrack, right? If I'm looking down the track, like on the ground, and I'm going 120, 130 miles an hour, man, it looks like I'm going 600 miles an hour. And if I quickly look up, it's like, oh, now I have a corner. What do I do? Just don't have time to react. If I look up, I'm still going at the same speed, but I'm giving my brain time to process what I'm seeing. So it seems like I'm thinking fast, but no, I'm just giving time for the brain to process that. And even last night, I did a talk on, using tools like ReSharper or whatever productivity tools to get things done. And I brought that up, that in the past, when I started using those tools, it was more like because it was a lot of fun using those tools, right? You would hit shortcuts and code would be flying all over the map. It was fun seeing the reaction or people's expressions, seeing what was happening. Nowadays, I see that differently. I am making those things that seem like I'm programming really fast, and it's not because I'm a fast programmer. It's because I'm slowing things down for my brain to process what is it that I'm doing. I'm actually thinking about not the shortcuts that I'm hitting, not about the class that I'm creating, the method that I'm creating. I'm thinking about the spec that I'm coding for. I'm thinking about the given a certain context, when, whatever. I'm thinking about that, right? To the outside, it looks like I'm doing things fast, but up here, I'm actually slowing things down.
So there's another angle that kind of works in that. And actually, by the way, I want to be clear. Like, anyone, please jump in and start talking. And we don't have to keep talking about this. If you want to talk about something else, please just open up your mic and start talking.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, Claudio and I have just learned from experience that if we don't talk, then it can sometimes get dead air. But please start talking if you have something to say. If you want us to go into something. But yeah, what I would say about that is, have you ever read the book Thinking Fast and Slow?
I have it on my list, my to read list, but I have not read it yet.
So it is a kind of seminal work in the field of behavioral psychology. Goes a lot toward like cognition and how we think, and kind of the very basic tenet of it is that there's, and then this is all, and like the authors are very clear about it. This is all very very hand wavy, like the when you actually go and breaks down to like neural pathways, it's not quite so simple. But broadly speaking, there's two kind of systems within our brain, which we generally use which constitute thinking, especially like task-driven thinking. There's system one, which is basically you could equate it to intuition, intuitive thinking, all the thinking you do without even thinking about it. Sure, eating, chewing, that sort of stuff. but also all the little the little reactions and the little things, like even when you're doing the task, things that pass into the realm of things that you don't actively think about. When you first start learning to type, you're thinking about hitting the keys directly, but as you kind of become better at it, that's not something you're thinking about. You're thinking in terms of, a word that want to get in there. And as you get better at that, you don't even think in terms of words. It just kind of flows out of you.
Yes.
And this is actually the bulk of the way we do most things. Most of the things we do have to be subconscious. And it's relatively low energy, but it also makes mistakes. It's also really hard to see when you've made a mistake and walk it back and recover from it, because that needs the effect of system 2, which is kind of your rational, your okay, I'm thinking through this slowly and logically self. And so, they talk a lot about this, how in a lot of situations, the most efficient way, the people that do really well, the way that they're really working, what those 10,000 hours of training are all about, is that you have trained yourself in the types of tasks within this field that tend to be done a lot, and enough of them have been processed and trained into system 1 tasks that system 2 can just kind of sit on top and direct them and say, like, do that, and then the rest of it is kind of flowing automatically, and it's not expanding all that energy I'm thinking about.
Right.
And so, and that's kind of even like relating to coding. When we talk about design patterns, and I've made the point lots of times, I think you have too, that design patterns are really just it's about language, it's about communication, it's about so that when I say, oh, this is used as a factory, someone else can understand that, and we don't have to like go in there and explain exactly what I mean. But I mean, there is actually another. It's a little more than that, because language drives how we think about stuff. And now, from my, when I'm thinking I want to use a factory here, that decision might be made by my type 2 system, but my type 1 system is the one that kind of enumerates really quickly through the couple of ways I know of implementing factories that they might look in this given language, and actually throws it down. Like, I'm not really focusing on that. I'm off somewhere over here focusing on requirements, focusing high level stuff, focusing on how I need to work with like my junior developers or something like that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally, and it's fun. That's why I've been like posting about these things, like the one that I was referring to. And thanks for bringing up that book, because again, it's on my to read list, and I'll just boost it up.
Yeah.
Since,
I mean, I'm reading it now for like the second or third time. There's a couple books from that same kind of genre that paint a similar picture.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If you need recommendations, like
Excellent. Yeah, I love that, because like on this post, Slow Down Mister, that's where I put those things together. Like even like to guitar playing, which is another thing I do. I cannot like play a blistering fast solo right off the bat. I have to slow it down. I have to see every single note on the fret. I have to make my fingers go there as I'm deliberately making them do so, before I can automate that and just, muscle memory. Same thing with motorcycle riding, right? So I ride like on mini bikes, which allow me to perform the same actions I do when I'm going 150 miles an hour, except that I'm doing on a much smaller um, context, right? Which allows me to exercise the muscle part. And when I'm going over to the big fast bike, I don't have to tell my brain what to do. It's already practiced that. My muscles have already done that. Here's this is the guy that I was mentioning.
yeah.
Right? So he talks about that, right? Which to me was like eye-opening. Because like as I was taking the improv classes, I kept thinking about this. Like, okay, it's not about thinking fast. It is about taking that step back and trying to see more, right? Coding, I talk about that. Yeah, productivity tools, how I was using it all wrong, thinking, oh yeah, look, mom, I can create classes real fast. That's not the point, right? So this is good stuff. What else? Let's see. Oh, and by the way, that one post I wrap up with the last question there is, am I proud of what I'm choosing to do? It's another reflection because remember the previous one, what will I do? It's me, like myself making a commitment. This is what I will do. And then that thing that I'm doing, it may last all day, all week, all month. So I have it up on my board right there. Am I proud of what I'm choosing to do? So I keep checking that, right? Am I on the right track? Because don't we do that with Scrum? Don't we do that when we do sprint planning? Don't we do that when we create our backlog items? Don't we do that when we do daily stand up? We keep checking, right? Are we on track? The thing that we chose to do this sprint, the way we chose to do it, are we still on track? Why don't we apply that to the way we live, right? So it's another one of those that came out of having nothing to do with programming, and I can see how it applies to how I live life pretty much. Uh, who do I know that can help me with this? Making sure that people know what you're up to, because when they do, they may offer a hand. And like one point here, I've updated my now page on my blog saying, hey, I've been messing with Angular recently. I post that under 5 minutes later, a good old friend of mine who I hadn't talked for 5 years sent me a text message. Hey, I know some Angular. If you need help with that, like, well, just let the world know. People will help you out, but they will not if you don't let people know. So there's that. Yesterday, I've given my brand new talk, Trusting IT, Bridging the Gap Between Vision and Execution. So this is being a huge part of my research and experiences lately, which is trying to build or bridge that gap between technical and non-technical folks, the way you have like business leadership, stakeholders, of course, thinking from the business standpoint, and they're not necessarily technical. And then you have IT, the technical folks that all they can think about is, oh yeah, React is better than Angular or Vue is better than both. Like, dude, it does not matter. I want to know from the business standpoint, why would I choose one over the other, right? So things along those lines. And another point that I bring up that George will probably relate, like, you're also advocate of write tests, unit tests, TDD, BDD, all that kind of fun stuff. But I know for a fact that you like many times when we ask developers about writing tests, they say, well, I don't write unit tests. Why? Oh, because the business doesn't let me. Well, how so? Oh, because they ask me what I'm doing. I say I'm writing tests. They say, well, we don't have money to afford that. And I say, okay, whenever they ask you why you're writing tests, what's your answer? And the answer, most often than not, is, well, to make sure that my code works. That's not a good answer, because you're saying it's about you. It's about your code. It's about saving your bacon. What is in it for my business? That does not fly. If you flip that around instead and you say, well, I'm writing not tests, but I'm writing specs to make sure that the thing that I implement actually maps back to the business value that we are trying to deliver here. Oh, okay, now we are talking, right? Because now it's about the people, the business, the strategic value for the company that you are delivering that service to. It changes the aspect.
I think that's interesting. Like, and I mean, this will be kind of a little bit of a diversion, but
Sure.
it is tough to talk about testing like that, because the issue is, I mean, yeah, of course I agree. And actually, I would say if you're a subcontractor, they don't get to tell you how to do your job. Like
Right.
legally in the U.S., they cannot tell you any more than they can tell you to use a particular type of keyboard.
Right.
That is part of the contractor relationship that they cannot do. But if you're not a contractor, presumably they can. And the problem is, like, yes, they should trust you about what the best way to develop a thing is. The problem is we don't train people to test well, and it's absolutely correct to say that at the beginning, at least, it takes a while to learn how to test well and learn how to test to write tests in such a way. I think once you get to write tests, you can intuit when you need them. You can write tests in such a way that it's actually faster than not writing tests. But until you get to there, it's not faster, and it does take extra time. And you're not seeing all those endpoints ahead of time, and you are going down all those dead ends. And so it is a really tough argument to ask people to make, especially when they don't have like backup from either someone more senior, someone who gets it, or when you're an employee but working on client projects, where really, or even when you're a contractor, if you're in that position, you're effectively training yourself on someone else's time, which legally you might not be allowed to do.
Right.
It's all gray area. It's really, really tough.
I know.
Yeah.
I hear you.
But yeah. And I do wish, and like one of my blog posts on TBD is kind of an attempt at that, and at least to start that conversation is, I wish we trained people better how to write tests.
Yes.
A good job of it.
Yeah, and it's again it's not just the how to write tests. I mean, yes, you need to know mechanically, how do you write the test. Once you've practiced that, right, it's the training wheels, right? You're learning to ride a bike. You need the training wheels, you need to understand the whole thing. Okay, now why do you want to ride a bicycle? Oh, because I want to get places faster, because I want to have a good time, whatever it is. So same thing with tests, right? Write the mechanics of writing tests. Okay, now you know how to do that. Great. Why do we write tests, right? Go back and say, do you understand the feature that we are building? If you don't, do not write code. So that's why I've been joking that I started this movement, no given when then, no code, right? So if you cannot describe what you're building in the shape of given when then, you shouldn't be writing code to begin with, right? Go back, go talk to business analysts, product owners, whoever has that that answer. Write it out in English, because it's way cheaper and easier to write it in English than it is to write JavaScript, TypeScript, whatever script or language you use for something that you don't even know what you're building, right?
So yeah, and I actually like the bike analogy, because that gives you another angle that, eventually you'll learn how to ride a bike, and then you'll get there faster. But until you learn how to ride the bike, scooting yourself over from on top of a bike to someplace while you're riding it, it's going to take a while. It's going to take slower to get there than if you just walked.
Yes.
And it's just, you have to find a way to invest the time and get the hours in to do that. And it's a tough thing that we ask people to do, but I think it's part of the professionalism, becoming a professional. Is that you find the time to do that somehow. And, start small. Also, from a nerdy technical point, when people need to convince themselves to write tests, the point I've always made is like, that crazy language that you want to use that nobody else, that you say your company won't let you use, they probably don't care what language you write your tests in.
True.
Yeah. So, if you need some internal motivation, do F# or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And another point that I make that I've been getting a lot of benefit from is writing the tests, regardless as whether I'm writing them in C#, JavaScript, whatever the language is, I make sure to write English, because then I can grab that test and show it to somebody who's non-technical.
Yeah.
I am showing the person my thing that I wrote in a programming language, but the person is empowered to read over what I wrote and help me with my assumptions, validating the scenarios that we are coding for. And people have been really appreciative of that. So it's not like, well, why are you writing tests? It's more like, oh, can I see your tests? Because now they know what to expect. That changes the dynamic between technical, non-technical. People trust the thing that you're delivering because like, oh, I saw it. He's writing the C# thing, this JavaScript thing, but he's writing our business in there. It completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Very cool. What else? Let's see.
Anybody else want to bring up a thing? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I see Jeff, Tony. What are you guys up to? What do you guys think of all this nonsense that we're talking about here? Don't be
I think it's good and everything, and a lot of things that you guys bring up make sense.
Excellent.
Yeah, sorry I don't talk very much. It's just I'm getting used to hearing you guys and getting to know you guys before I do all that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we know. I mean, George and I, we've done a lot of this in the past, and we've been through it. And I mean, we remember from back years ago where there were names that would pop up in the list of attendees, and it would take like weeks until somebody felt like, oh yeah, these guys are all right. It's safe to open up my mic and talk because people are not gonna call me crazy, say that I'm doing it all wrong, and stuff like that. That's really not the point of these meetings. It's a way for us to learn together. So thanks for joining us. Ooh. Let's see, and I see Tony is also following us right there.
Yeah, I just forgot my question though.
You forgot your question, man? Ooh, well, thanks for joining. Thanks for helping us spread the word. I've been seeing, you repost our links to the meeting and encourage people to join us. That's really appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
Very cool. Let's see, what else? I guess we can probably wrap it up. So today I've posted...
Well, we can talk about some tech stuff. We've got, what, like another 10 minutes?
Somewhat? I'm sorry.
We can talk about some tech stuff.
Sure. What do you want to bring up, or you guys have anything else to bring up?
Yeah. If anyone wants to bring it up, please do. Facebook crashed most of the iOS mobile ecosystem for a while.
Whoa.
That happened. I don't know if anyone saw that. So basically, and I guess I'll bring up a little bit of the details because I think it's important for people to know. What one of the main things that people do with Facebook and building apps is just use Facebook as a login provider, which is reasonable. That's what a lot of people prefer.
Right.
But at the same time, so the way that it works is in order to have use the login provider, you have to pull in the Facebook SDK. The Facebook SDK on startup, even if you don't use it, even if someone doesn't log in with Facebook, just on load of the SDK, makes requests to Facebook, and that's one of the things people are pretty incensed about. That sends metrics on your phone and so on to Facebook, even if you don't touch it, don't use it, and there's no other way to use it. So there was an error in that, and it was causing every app that uses Facebook logins to crash under certain conditions, and it was an awful lot of apps. So that was a crazy situation. They did fix it pretty quickly, but people are always up in arms about over Facebook. But that's an interesting thing. And one of the things that you really kind of need to be aware of, and honestly, if you're building apps that are deployed in the UK, you might even need to, if your privacy policies don't specifically include that, the fact that information is sent to Facebook servers about your phone, you might need to do it, depending, because you've got the GDPR now. Actually, in the US, you've got CCPA in California, or
right.
CIPA, CCPA, whatever it's called.
Right.
And there's more coming online throughout the world. And again, it's not because you are sending information to Facebook. It's not even because any of your users are using Facebook, because then they know. But it's even if you just load the Facebook SDK into the application, then it happens. So lots of people probably might need to revisit their privacy policies. So this has kind of been no problem. It hasn't been like big news.
Right.
And then some guy on that Facebook thread is saying like, well, we should all chuck SSO and everyone should learn to manage their keys. It's like, man, that's exactly what we were doing before SSO, and it was a mess. Yeah, people don't end up getting logins right because it's actually kind of hard to implement correctly.
Right.
Yeah. And when you think like, well, what is it so hard about it? Well, I mean, yeah, forget about choosing the right hashing and salting stuff, though that's also what you can screw up all the time. But think about how complex password resets can get. I was talking to someone today, and they were asking, so if you have a policy that does account lockout after 10 incorrect attempts, should you? What happens if they're trying to log in with an incorrect account 10 times? Should you just show an incorrect login attempt, or show a thing there, or not? And on the one hand, no, you shouldn't, because you shouldn't leak the fact that someone has an account at your website, like Ashley Madison or something like that. You wouldn't want people to know that you have an account there. But on the other hand, implementing the ability to emulate the fact that you're locked out for accounts that don't exist is actually pretty hard. Because you essentially have to treat every login that someone might try as a potential account and store it. Right?
Yeah.
I would say the right answer is not to show why someone can't log in at all. You give them an answer like you couldn't log in. It might be because your username and password is wrong. It might be because you're locked out. Here are your next steps. But I mean, like stuff like it's not easy to get right, and it is case by case, and that's why we encourage people to use SSOs to begin with. It's just a damn shame that all the the main SSOs are Facebook, Google, and they all collect data as reasonably can because we're using their servers and should.
Doesn't Microsoft also collect info because they
Microsoft? Yeah. I mean, like we're using their servers and their bandwidth and their information to get an authentication. So, it's crazy to say like that they should just offer that service for free. But I mean, like, I don't think they make a ton of money out of it. But like, even if they're not like making any money at all or like doing ad revenue and stuff like that, like they would want to collect some data just for logging all the regular things that we're supposed to be doing. So it sucks. It's a very tough situation because the answer was for a while like we were going to set up this like standard for how login flows work, and you could switch it to any provider. And the work kind of got done, and then like everything, and then OAuth 2 happened, and OAuth 2 is like really like, no, this is just a workflow about how logins happen and credentials are provided, and it's not about swapping out different providers at all. Like that part of it is completely lost nowadays, and it sucks.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. So we'll throw that on the pile.
Right.
On.
Yeah.
What other tech stuff has happened? We got a few minutes.
There's Microsoft Build conference has been announced, and registration is free right now.
Yeah, that's been kicked. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have time to join. Kind of want to, but it's pretty distracting. Doesn't fit with the Pomodoros.
Right. Yeah, I saw the thanks for bringing it up. The Microsoft Build thing. I think I saw it online yesterday, which is, I mean, it's really good because at this point of time, a lot of people are looking into ways to refresh their knowledge, keep building their knowledge on things that they may not have been experiencing with the current experiences and things. So I'm very happy to see that aspect of things, like the amount and variety of stuff that's available virtually. I don't think we've ever seen that, right?
Mhm.
And not just like new offerings that are showing up, but even the existing ones where you have like Pluralsight offering like a month of free access to their content. Udi Dahan actually put his awesome training that people pay like what $4,000-$5,000 to attend to his courses. It's available. I don't know if it's still available. I think it was until like last week or something like that. So just made it available for people to just take it online. So it's again, it's another one of those. It takes me back to my, what can I do about it? What will I do about it? Right? And am I proud of what I chose to do? Right? So like right now, what am I doing right now? I'm sharing stuff with people on the virtual brown bag. Am I proud of doing so? Yes, I am somehow trying to help out other people. I'm very proud of doing this. It's something I like doing. I do it just because it's something Claudio does, right? So seeing that, all these options and, people helping out others, this is just awesome. And it's me just being like all hippie. Very cool.
Yeah, so it
Oh,
is
what is
still
that?
free, it looks like. So
What was that?
it is still free, it looks like.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have it up on my browser. I started watching. I think I've gone, maybe I did an hour or so of it. I need to go through the whole thing because I've always heard good stuff about his training. I remember seeing his talks a long time ago at conferences, and it's great stuff. People should know about these things. So,
I met him a couple times and I fanboyed on him, and he
yeah,
weirded out by it.
I think I remember the first time I saw him talk as well as Greg Young. That was at a Dev Teach conference in Montreal, Canada, 2004.
Mhm.
And I remember those, like just hearing the stuff that those guys were talking about, and I was still like so heavily into, thinking database first and, thinking CRUD, everything is CRUD, and seeing those guys talk about software, I'm like, holy cow, yes. Eye opener for sure.
Yeah. Have you heard of Joel Lowry and iDesign's work?
Say that again?
So there's Joel Lowry, like one of the guys who was like involved in designing WCF, like the
Yes,
actual.
I remember. Yeah. No, it's been such a
So
long time since I heard his name.
yeah, so had a company called iDesign, which is also all about like how to architect large systems, which is like, as far as I know, it's like, the DDD CQRS people, and then maybe the iDesign guys are the only two games in town about talking things at that level, really.
Right.
But like as a system. But he actually just recently put out a book about it. He said for a long time he was like, there's almost no information online about what exactly their method is. Like they just have these really expensive trainings, and the people I know that have gone to it are like rave about it. And apparently there's some sort of beef between them and the DDD guys and Udi Dahan in particular. And yeah, so I've started. I haven't gone too far into the book, but there, it is interesting. One of the things I 100 cannot possibly agree with him more on is that people don't. No one ever plans out their project, like how exactly, and that's crazy. You absolutely should. Like, if you're building a building, you would have a plan of how you're going to get the project done that's written down, and it's not just like a Gantt chart, right? It's an actual plan with contingency plans and stuff like that. And people don't do that because at some point we were all just taught to like throw up our hands and be like, well, it's hard. It's like, well, no, there's still things you can do. Yeah.
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 Again, right? Going back to the what can I do? What will I do?
Right. Yeah. So I am interested in that. And we'll kind of have to. I'm going to read more, but need to pick it up again.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that. I'm gonna check it out. It's been ages since I heard his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called writing software. Like
Writing software. All right.
Yeah. I'll post that in the chat too.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll collect those links and put it in the description when I put up the video.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right. Well, it's 1 o'clock. I guess time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Tony. Jeff, did I get it right? Yep. Thanks for joining us, and lots of good stuff, I think, shared here. The video will be up online later today, and I hope to see you guys back next week.
Thank you for hosting this.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right. Invite your friends.
Invite your friends.
Bye,
Gotta
everyone.
make friends.
All right. Catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.
See ya.